Central to our discussion today is the concept of skin in the game. Simply put, having something to lose means roughly having skin in the game. Looking at what is skin in the game, defined by Nassim Nicholas Taleb. Do not mistake skin in the game, as defined here and used in this book, for just an incentive problem, just having a share of the benefits, as it is commonly understood in finance. No, it's about symmetry, more like having a share of the harm, paying a penalty if something goes wrong, by Nassim Nicholas Taleb. We all experience it in some way or another, that we learn best when we want to or we have to. And it helps when we have something to lose, when we can fail. In one of his talks at MIT, Steve Jobs talks about the importance of having skin in the game. In this case, he talks that consultants mainly don't have it and therefore don't go through the learning process. I think that without owning something over an extended period of time, like a few years, where one has a chance to take responsibility for one's recommendations, where one has to see one's recommendations through all action stages and accumulate scar tissue for the mistakes and pick oneself above the ground and dust oneself off. One learns a fraction of what one can, by Steve Jobs. As we can see here, it is about taking responsibility for something. We learn when we take the responsibility of the downside. Steve Jobs goes on, coming in and making recommendations and not owning the results, not owning the implementation, I think is a fraction of the value and a fraction of the opportunity to learn and get better, by Steve Jobs. Now, of course, a big failure can break us, but most failures will not break us. We are probably scared of some trauma, but there are always two sides to failure. Without failure or in general stressors, we don't grow. Without having exposure to the downside, we don't grow. Well, it turns out that there's something called post-traumatic growth. Whatever doesn't break, of course it can break you. A lot of people get traumatic stress disorder, but bad events make people grow. I mean, up to a point, of course. Something that kills you doesn't make you grow. So there's something called post-traumatic growth, and psychologists don't talk about it. All they talk about is a disorder. Nobody's going to make any money selling you post-traumatic growth, because they don't have to treat you. Nature is treating you, by Nassim Nicholas Taleb. Stressors appear if we want them or not. And it is really beneficial for us that they appear because they make us grow. And it is also beneficial for us to take risk. But of course, not risk which could mean possibly death or ruin, like financial ruin or something like that. But in general, some risk with skin in the game. And this combination makes us just grow. One of the ultimate losses is our own death. We don't like to think about our death, at least I don't like to think about it. But it can bring some sense of urgency and it can sharpen our decision making in a meaningful way. Remembering that I will be dead soon is the most important tool I have ever encountered to help me make the big choices in life. Because almost everything, all external expectations, all pride, all fear of embarrassment or failure, these things just fall away in the face of death, leaving only what is truly important. Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. You are already naked, by Steve Jobs. He goes on talking how death before his disease was just an intellectual concept. Now, we all don't want some life-threatening disease to feel the death pressure. Maybe without a life-threatening situation, we can't feel the same intensity. But it doesn't matter, because what we can do is to think of death and think that our time is limited. And at least for me, it is working, because it focuses me much more on the big decision or on the important things in life, and little things or little worries fall apart. This chapter looks at the dilemma of what happens if we have no skin in the game. In his book Skin in the Game, Nassim Nicholas Taleb writes about the banking or financial crisis of 2008. Bankers and other people were accumulating hidden risks, and when then the blow-up like the financial crisis happened, they argued they could not foresee it. Now, the problem is that they kept all their past bonuses or their past income and they were not responsible for that. Nassim Taleb now on the Bob Rubin trade. Robert Rubin, a former secretary of the United States Treasury, collected more than $120 million in compensation from Citibank in the decade preceding the banking crash of 2008. When the bank, literally insolvent, was rescued by the taxpayer, he didn't write any check. He invoked uncertainty as an excuse. Heads he wins, tails he shouts, black swan, by Nassim Nicholas Taleb. The problem is here that those people are not faced with a downside, and this can lead to excessive risk-taking. It is especially unethical when the negative outcomes of our mistakes, or for example of my mistakes, are transferred to others. if others have to pay for our faults. There are of course many more areas like that where the separation from the downside has happened or is happening. What we probably can all do is to question ourselves if we have skin in the game in our jobs or also in our private lives, or if we don't have it. We are moving now to the next area, the area of giving advice. I talked briefly or shortly about it in my last video, but I will repeat some of it here. I am in a position with this YouTube channel to somewhat communicate advice or communicate advice from other people. A rule is, in both cases, to just talk about advice when I do that by myself. In many cases, we don't face any ups or downsides with our advice. But again, when we face some upside by advising, but don't face a downside, it goes in the wrong direction. So, giving advice as a sales pitch is fundamentally unethical. Selling cannot be deemed advice. We can safely settle on that. You can give advice or you can sell by advertising the quality of the product, and the two need to be kept separate. By Nassim Nicholas Taleb. The concept of skin in the game is not anymore just a concept for me, it is reality. Since I have my little company with this YouTube channel here, I'm having completely skin in the game. I'm 100% responsible for all the up and downsides. And this is completely different than to be an employee. My learning was never so big and fast. My emotions never experienced such a roller coaster. And I think it's good as long as it doesn't break me. I learned that survival is the first priority, and that includes to not do stupid things which could mean ruin. And all of this I knew somehow intellectually, like as an intellectual concept before. But since I really have the skin in the game, I can say that for me, this concept is true in my life. This example was now only focused on the business or career part of our lives, but skin in the game is found in every aspect of our lives. Hopefully, this video could deliver the message that it's really important to own the symmetry, or like to have symmetry in the outcomes, like facing up and downsides in our lives. Now, in the end, I know that words are not always fully convincing, because in the end we have to experience some things and to try things out. So to try it out that we have skin in the game, that we really are responsible for everything, for the up and downsides. You will never fully convince someone that he is wrong, only reality can. By Nassim Nicholas Taleb. To end this video now, some last words by Steve Jobs and Nassim Nicholas Taleb. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinion drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary. By Steve Jobs. And most of all, nothing without skin in the game. By Nassim Nicholas Taleb. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. And as always, I wish you a fantastic day.